Yeah.
so that they know, the advertiser knows that the business is coming from your podcast.
Yeah, put Illuminati Telegraph for the code word, and you'll get 75% off the purchase of a brand new Audi at any Audi dealership near you.
All you have to do is go in, pay the down payment on the Audi, drive it for, I don't know, however long you want, and then drop it back on the lot like Dylan did. And you've officially gotten it for 75% off.
Yes, let's just get into the first one, man. You picked the first one. There's 7 of them.
Well, I figured we'd start off with the first one you sent me, the enigmatic circling behavior that's captured in whales, sharks, penguins, and sea turtles. Start off kind of light. Yeah, I thought that was super interesting. So these biologists use this new biologging technology to study these sea turtles, sharks, penguins, and all these other marine animals. And they found that they all swim in circles, and they don't know why, actually. They have theories of why that this article kind of goes through. One of them is that maybe they're circling because it's an advantage for foraging for food. But then there is some evidence that suggested against that, where they observe some of these circling events at times of the day where some of these animals actually don't even eat, so that it wouldn't really make sense for it to be a benefit for that. They also noticed that it occurred whenever some of the animals, like a male tiger shark, approaches a female, they will go through that circling motion. The homing turtles, and this is kind of where this this article focuses a lot on these turtles, because they did an experiment where they moved these turtles from one location to another to basically test their navigation abilities. And so they had a lot of information about the turtles on this. And they were just constantly circling like a machine at certain points in their journey back to their destination. And I thought that was super interesting, because it's possible that the circling helps them to detect magnetic fields to navigate. And I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy if that's like actually how that works. And interestingly, they also say that submarines circle during their geomagnetic observations as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was super cool. Like, these animals have this kind of fucking superhero ability to like feel the magnetic field of the earth to navigate from one location to another underwater. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, that explains a lot about how animals.
And then I got to looking up. I'm sorry, I got to looking up, like, because dogs do that shit too. Cats do that. You ever notice that? Like, when a dog goes to lay down, it walks in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
Before,
aren't they trying to fix their bed? They're doing something to fix their bed.
So though? I looked, and that's one of the theories, that they're trying to fix their bed. I was just trying to see if there was a link there, right? Because like it seems to me like a lot of animals do these circling behaviors, like a lot of them. I don't know. Maybe it is just kind of an exclusive thing where it is an advantage for them to have that circling behavior in the underwater world here, but. Seems, I don't know, I was looking for more links there between other animals.
Yeah, it is weird. I start wondering if they can actually see the electromagnetic properties of the universe. Like we see clouds, we see some gases or this or that, but they might be able to see, they might follow electromagnetic lines in the earth. They might be navigating from vile vortices, and not ley lines, because that's actually just the line between physical structures. Yeah. But those, man, that's wild.
Well, I mean, they can hear frequencies that we can't hear. I'm sure they can see. We know that their vision is different from ours, right? And then who knows that they maybe have other senses that we just have no perception of, because we only have our 5 that we're observing reality around us with. So yeah,
That's
I think
wild
that
too, is because our reality is what we see and hear. And we know there's so much more beyond those
yeah,
bandwidths up and low, but and we just don't see it or hear it, but it's still there.
yeah,
That's what it's still there, like boom, boom, all this stuff is happening, and we're just
all
like,
these
hey,
particles, all this radiation that all this stuff around us, right?
yeah.
We
And I
can't observe
yeah, it's just not there, but it is. And it's not even that it's
with
there,
our naked eye.
it's actually fundamental. Like electromagnetic activity is like the most fundamental to life. If it increases, we get blown up by volcanoes and climate change. If it does this or that, we're just fucked. And I think about, on days when like the sun comes out or just for whatever reason, people are out
Yeah,
and they all have that same energy. Like you work customer service. Some days the store is just packed. It's like, why today on Tuesday? Like, what the fuck?
it's just,
Well,
yeah,
it's almost like
certain
they're,
energy
yeah, like there's like
drawing us. Yeah,
just electromagnetic properties that get some people that are receptive to it to just kind of wake up and go get active. Because the same thing with me, like some days it's just super busy. Some days it's not, or some days the restaurants are busy and like deliveries are not, or vice versa.
or some
You know,
some days it's the opposite. Some days it's like, man, it's just kind of this dragging feel to
yeah,
it all, and it's kind of quiet out, and the weather's kind of
yeah. And everybody
dreary.
feels it, even if there's a
Yeah,
person who doesn't feel tired or feel dragged down, they might be like, yeah, it is kind of one of those days, and they go off crushing it. But even they can still recognize this thing today. It's
well,
weird. Like
is
when
it
people go partying and like everyone's out and they just want to fuck. It's like, what's all this fuck energy going on here? And then some days you go out to party and it's just like
awkward?
no one's there to fuck. You know what I mean? It's just people trying to get their fix. No one's
What the
out.
fuck?
It's just a different energy. It's got to be electromagnetic.
Yeah,
But no,
what it made me think, like, isn't there a real thing that happens in the Pacific Northwest of this seasonal depression that you get from like the dreary weather all the time, right?
I didn't experience that because I love
Really?
dreary weather. I fucking loved it, man. And here's the other thing: is you still get a lot of sunshine. Do you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like in Louisiana, it was very comparable to Louisiana, honestly,
Really?
because
It
like
rains all the fucking time over here.
yeah, and there's always gray stuff moving in, right? It's just the summer is longer. So that's what I noticed living there was like it is gray and dreary more of the time, but there's still like a lot of sunshine
Yeah.
and it was still worse than Louisiana, right? Because it'll be 2 weeks and you haven't seen sunshine, but then it comes out for a week and a half or 2 weeks, or
That's
or
cool.
or
So, but
maybe
it
three
does sound
days.
like there's these extended periods. But I
Yeah,
guess I don't know.
extended periods.
So you didn't notice the vibe over there was kind of subdued during
It
those
is.
cloudy. It is.
People are definitely just more like, yay, I just ooh, and they go in, they get a latte, and everyone's got a latte. They're like, yay, I love books. Everyone's like that, But then when the sun comes out, everyone, yeah, it is
It
definitely
kind
that.
of vibes with electromagnetic energy, as you would say.
Yeah. But I mean, there's definitely a lot of sunshine, and I personally like that weather. So, um, it does subdue you, though. That's a good way to put it. I wouldn't say it necessarily made me depressed after 2 weeks of gray skies and stuff.
Yeah.
It just, after 2 weeks, it's like, all right, some sunshine will be cool, but this is because it's not like Louisiana where it's flat and boring.
Right.
The trade-off is that you're in the middle of this magical fucking wonderland
Of
of
mountains
beauty,
and forests.
unprecedented beauty. Absolutely. Like literally the most beautiful place in the world to me is that whole strip, Vancouver Isles down to like, you know,
Fuck, I don't even know that I've ever been to Washington State. I need to go.
if you do go, you have to go north, like to Bellingham, because this was my experience driving every single time. 5 or 6 times I've made this drive, is that when you're coming up through Portland, it's very
Hmm.
gray. and you get to Seattle, and it's still very gray and normal. And then right north of Seattle, the sky opens up and it's sunshine, and then that's when it all really starts. Is like north of Seattle.
Gotcha. So it's not, but isn't it's still beautiful around those areas, right?
It is, but you can still find yourself in areas where it's flat and boring. You know what I mean?
Of course, like in every state, you can find yourself. I'm sure you can find yourself in areas where it's flat and boring in Colorado.
Yeah, it's like a guitar solo. Like the song is good and there's great riffs, but it's not until the end when the solo really hits. It's like when you get north of Seattle and start going up in there, that's when the solo is just when you're just like, I can't get away from.
Got it. The climax.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the weather. Like I said.
Yeah, you mentioned the sky opens up. It gets a little less gray.
Yeah, like it literally like 30 miles north, like it just gets a little sunny, and you're like, whoa. You start to kind of get to the top of the world. You're not there in Seattle yet. It's like another hour.
Well, one day we'll take a trip.
Yeah, we went to speaking of whales circling. When I had moved there, the buddy I rented the sailboat from, he had free tickets to go see the whales.
Mm-hmm.
On like a
see the whales where?
Out in the bay, like all right there in the bay, the Bellingham Bay. It's right on the bay.
Like this is not like a
zoo.
You're right. It's like a SeaWorld type of situation.
A ferry that tours you through all the islands in the Bellingham Bay.
And there's so many whales, like they're just out right there.
They're out in the bay. Like the town is on the bay. So when you're driving through town on the roads, you catch the bay, the ocean, with like islands out there, and you can canoe out to these islands and camp.
That's fucking badass.
Yeah, and my buddy in the sailboat was out for a weekend. He just dropped his anchor out there and stayed on the boat for the weekend and fished. And he heard this terrifying noise, and he got up in the middle of the night because there's no noise out there. There's no crickets, out just floating in the ocean. And he was surrounded by whales blowing their blow spout. So they're there, the whales. Yeah, it was crazy. But we took a ferry. Wild. Yeah, we took a ferry. But the bad weather, and they didn't put us on the list, so we missed it. But it was bad weather that day. So we came back the next day, kind of bummed out. The next day, it was beautiful weather. We saw the whole squad of whales with the mother, who's like 103 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Who died like 4 months later, because you can't control what you see. You just go out.
How do they know how old the mother is?
They've been tracking her and stuff, Okay. They tag them and they watch them and study them and stuff. And then they almost broke a record for breaching the water that day. One of them, it was like 11. We were in the boat. It was just breaching the water, playing, and almost actually broke a record, all-time record. It was 2 breaches shy. But like the day before, they didn't see anything. That's what they told us, because we told them like, yeah, yesterday we didn't get to come. It was like, oh, you didn't miss anything. Nothing happened. But that day,
it was going. But did you see him circling?
No, we didn't see circling. But
well, I'm sure that has its specific uses.
This article is just a reason to tell my story.
Yeah,
about seeing Granny. I think her name was Granny, or something.
The 100-year-old whale.
Yeah, my connection, I didn't look into it, though, was that in the universe, galaxies and solar systems, molecules all spin and circle. Like that motion is a fundamental property of existence. Like you can't exist without being in motion, and the macro and the micro reflects that. So is there some kind of subconscious thing going on?
Possibly, yeah.
Where these animals just circle?
Maybe it's, yeah. It's part of the sacred geometry of the universe.
I wonder if they make perfect circles.
The image in the article suggests they make more spirals than circles.
Spirals?
Well, actually, they show...
even more interesting.
No, they show the... well, hold on. I'll just share my screen. I mean, you have the article pulled up, too. they show the dolphin as making more of a spiral, and the other ones, like the turtle's making more of an ellipsis than a circle, according to this picture.
Right.
You know, I
Yeah.
doubt it's a perfect circle. So yeah, but I thought it was pretty interesting, and I especially like the portion to think that maybe these animals can sense the magnetic field of the Earth, and they use it for navigation. I thought that was I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a part of this article that mentioned that they stop along these migration routes and circle, almost as if to signify this is a turning point on the route. Now we're going that way. Or like a place to stop and see where like maybe they're honing in, but it was almost like a navigation point to like a checkpoint.
Yeah, like right before they reach their destination, they stop and do this circling event.
Yeah.
I wonder what that is. Well, I wonder why they would do it right before they got to their destination. You'd think if they used it for navigational purposes, they would have to use it earlier in the trip, right? To figure out where they're going, where they're at. Unless maybe to get a precise location, they can always sense a general feel of the magnetic field of the Earth. But as they get closer to narrow it down, they have to do that circling motion. I'm making shit up here.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's interesting.
They don't know either, the researchers in this article. So just super interesting. It's fun to kind of make theories up.
It's got to be electromagnetic because all these different species are doing it, and how else do they navigate and communicate unless it's being able to perceive and manipulate those things we can't, like those high pitches that we can't hear? And you think they see the electromagnetic waves or they feel it?
I don't know. I think it'd be difficult for us to describe if it's a new sense that's different from, because vision is just one of our senses, right? Maybe there's a sixth or seventh sense that they have where they're able to sense that. Maybe it's more of a feeling, like you said,
or maybe they hear it. Maybe maybe
it's auditory.
Maybe they're circling so that they can get an idea of which spot of the circle has the strongest detection of that electromagnetic route they're trying to follow. Like a weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong. Okay, it's right here. And then they go.
That would kind of make sense, right?
Like Marco Polo.
Yes, like Marco Polo.
So maybe if that's the case, the direction they're facing is how they detect it. So maybe they're hearing it. And they're like, he, and they can kind of hear where this whine is coming. You know what I'm saying? But because they're not any closer by swimming 6 feet in a circle to be able to detect a 6 foot difference. It must be directional in some way if they're navigating.
If they're navigating. When in this article states that, like, it's weird that they have this behavior because obviously that's not the most efficient way to swim. It's more efficient to swim in a straight line to your destination.
I usually just flap and kick my arms and spit water out of my mouth until someone saves me.
You're not a good swimmer?
No, I am. I'm just fucking around.
I know you are.
Yeah, I'm actually a kick-ass swimmer. No, I'm not actually. When I was living in Austin, we went renting a canoe, and then they had this Lake Austin's a river that's dammed, so it's technically a lake, but it's like a river if you're visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the middle there was this little island, just like a little 30-yard circle of a couple of chicken trees or something. So we went there, and then it was like a V from where we were. And then on the other side was a cliff. You can walk up and jump off. So we jumped off, right? Whenever I swam from the cliff back to the island, like, I started to panic because I was running. I didn't realize how far it was. That's the illusion of swimming. It's like it's twice as far as you think.
Yeah.
And I was running out of air, man. I couldn't breathe, and I was starting to panic. And I had to, like,
shit.
Yeah, man, I was in the middle. I was far. I had to call Steve-O. He had his life jacket on, and like I had to hang on to him for about 5 minutes and catch my breath, and then bust the other half up. And whenever I got to the island, Like I couldn't stand. My whole body was sore. Like my hands and my calves, like
Holy
everything.
shit! You like
I was
almost died.
I almost had a big problem. So I mean I could swim, but when you're talking being conditioned to swim, no.
And it's crazy. There's people that do crazy swimming endurance things too.
Nick and Nate
Like
Diaz, they swim Alcatraz.
that's
Can you imagine, dude?
crazy.
Can you imagine fighting a guy that can swim to Alcatraz and
No,
back?
fuck that.
Like an unskilled guy that can do that.
No, no,
That's crazy.
wasn't there some guy that also swam around the entire island of Great Britain?
I don't know,
I
but
don't
that's a lot of
I'm hearing
swimming.
that. Yeah, he had a
Well,
boat on the side of him the whole time, but still.
the second you said Great Britain, I immediately imagined goggles and Speedo shorts. Not even like Speedos, just Speedo shorts and goggles.
I, I'm sh- I don't know what the fuck he wore, but I think he swam for months.
Months.
Yeah,
It's that big?
to swim around it. He wasn't like he swam around it.
How big is the Isle of Great Britain? It's going to take you months. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Let's see.
Jesus Cristo.
Spent 5 months at sea. Yeah, British adventurer sets record with 5 month swim around Great Britain.
It seems like it would.
1,780 miles.
Holy shit, man. I didn't realize it was that big around the Isle of Great Britain.
There you go.
Wow.
So yeah, that dude's a fucking savage.
He stayed in the water for 5 months, or the boat picked him up and
Well,
then, like,
so the way it worked, like he swam between 6 and 12 hours a day, taking breaks for sleeping and eating on an accompanying boat.
okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
he's a psycho, right? And that
Six
guy's
to-
a psycho.
6 to 12 hours a day. Dude, I swam in that Lake Austin River for like 15 minutes and I
Yeah.
was done for the day.
This motherfucker's in the open water, in the ocean, swimming around the UK. That's fucking wild to me. I don't like getting pushed too far off the beach.
Yeah, man. I would die.
That happened to me in the Pacific Ocean one time. I caught a rip tide and got, before I knew it, I turned around and looked. I'm like, holy shit, I am really far out here, and I had to like work diagonally or however you're supposed to fucking do it to work my way back to the shore. But it was pretty freaky for a second.
Damn.
I was to the point, like I was having to swim too. Like I couldn't touch anymore. Like I was pretty far out there.
Mm. Damn. You didn't
So,
have a floaty or nothing?
Nothing.
Were you drunk?
No. I was
Okay,
sober.
okay, that would have sucked if you were drunk and like, fuck, I'm
I wasn't-
exhausted.
I wasn't
right now.
drunk.
Remember that time we took that random trip to the beach? Where did we go?
I
Biloxi
don't
or
know.
something? That was
Biloxi,
fun.
Pensacola.
Pensacola was too far. It was just a couple hours.
Biloxi then, because that's only 3 hours.
Yeah, that was fun, huh?
Yeah, it was fun.
Got that
Now,
gallon of cap.
how far do you have to drive to get to a beach from where you're at now?
Oh, at least a day and a half.
It's true. You're like landlocked now.
Yeah,
But you got like mountains and shit.
yeah. Mountains, rivers, lakes.
Yeah, don't you have some really nice lakes over there too?
Yeah, out in the mountains. I mean, Denver's just a big city with badass sidewalks and trails. But you gotta go to the mountains for all that shit.
Yeah. All right. Anyway,
Speaking of,
enigmatic circling behavior. Let's talk about. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, speaking of almost dying.
Yeah. So this one was interesting. You sent me this one. I'll let you kind of take over and kick it off.
Yeah, this one is death enables complexity in chemical evolution. So this guy did an experiment. Let me find my notes. Whatever, no notes. So he basically made these ringed, I don't want to call it beings.
Self-replicating fibers.
Yes, self-replicating fibers. Upon introducing a molecule that attacks the replicators, the more complex structures have an advantage. The system shows the way forward in elucidating how life can originate from lifeless matter. So these self-replicating fibers form rings on top of each other, and they continue to grow. And the complex ones, what is it? They get complex. It's kind of weird. Let me just read the article.
No, it's okay. So the way I understood it, there's these self-replicating fibers that are composed of these rings. But what the experiment's trying to figure out is basically the process of evolution, right? And how life evolved from these simple building blocks into the complex beings and that exist today, such as humans and animals. And it's been a really difficult problem to solve forever. So because there has been this thing called the, let's see.
The monster?
The monster. Spiegelman's monster.
Yeah.
Spiegelman's monster.
What is that? I think from what I understand,
Spiegelman's monster was named after American molecular biologist Sol Spiegelman, who 55 years ago described the tendency of replicators to become smaller when they were allowed to evolve, because complexity is a disadvantage during replication. So how did the complexity of life evolve? Right?
That's what it was.
That's the whole thing. It's much easier for these simple systems to replicate themselves rather than these complex systems to replicate themselves. So that's why it's such a perplexing thing of how evolution worked for these millions of years. These systems continuing to become more and more and more complex, from single-celled organisms up to human beings that we have today. It's like, how did that happen if in all of the experiments that we've done, we've always shown that the simple replication systems are able to replicate much more quickly and easily than complex ones. And so that's what this guy was trying to figure out. This guy, Otto, is his last name. I can't remember what his first name was. But he made these he had these fibers that were stacked up of rings that were from single building blocks. And they basically had the number of building blocks could vary in the experiment, but the rings, the stacks always contained rings of the same size. And there were two size rings. There were rings that were built from 3 building blocks and rings that were built from 6 building blocks. So under the normal circumstances, fibers in the smaller ring with the 3 building blocks will outgrow the fibers with the larger rings. But they added a compound that broke up the rings inside the fibers and found that the bigger rings were more resistant. So what that means is that the more complex rings, when death was introduced into that equation, the more complex rings were able to persist, whereas the smaller rings kept getting killed off.
Right.
And so this helps get past Spiegelman's monster of how a complex system would continue to evolve and grow over time versus a simple one. So that's the way I kind of understood it. It was hard for me to understand, but that's just kind of what I got from it.
Yeah, it's almost like the first step of nature is to replicate, and then when it experiences resistance, it becomes complex to fight the resistance, but sacrifices its ability to replicate. So it's like both are important, is to be complex, but also to be able to replicate practically. Because if you're too complex,
you perfect mix, though, right?
Yeah. And I found this whole thing really interesting on a couple of levels, but being an artist, it's the same thing. Like when you're a musician that works hard at your craft or whatever, you become harder to kill as an artist. because you're complex and you're grounded in many different areas. But when you're a one-dimensional person who might just, nothing against people working on keyboards and stuff, but like if you don't play instruments and you haven't put in that complex work and just kind of using loops and shortcutting, you might get there faster, listeners, views, fans, attention. But the second the market changes, like
the easy instrument of your choice is out of fashion.
Yeah, maybe that's not totally accurate what I'm trying to say, because like when coronavirus hit and performances went out the window, you really got to see who thrived by who had more skill sets outside of performing. And that was typically like multifaceted instrumentalists, people that can like produce or play guitar or this or like make a beat. So maybe people with keyboards actually did better because they didn't need to perform. They could just crank out beats or whatever.
Yeah.
But being undeniable as an artist is what this struck me as, is because if you're complex and you're undeniable, you'll survive better than someone who's not. That's what I'm mixing up, is assuming that because you do a MIDI keyboard, you're not complex. That's what I'm wrong about. In general, as an artist, if you work hard, build up your base, and become complex, you'll be harder to kill in the market versus being like, I dress up and I have a light show and I have like one song.
Yeah.
That kind of person. That they'll, take off better, but they'll die off really. You see that all the time, these one-dimensional artists that just die off, and people with mega skill, 20 years later, you might not hear about them in the news, but they're still working. They're still cashing in. And that other person's like off on drugs because they didn't have anything to fight the resistance.
Anything of substance, yeah.
That's what struck me about this article is because that the concept of survival and complexity, because as an artist, I'm always torn. Like I'm too complex sometimes, therefore I don't replicate and become more in a metaphorical sense. You spend too much time on a complex song. You don't ever get the record done at all because you're still overthinking it. And then when you finally get it done, it's too complex. People don't connect, so it doesn't replicate in the masses. It's like there's a balance between
complexity and...
Yeah. I just thought there was a lot of parallels to draw from this regarding the concept of survival and death and simplicity and complexity. I thought that was really interesting.
It definitely is, man. I mean, we're talking about like how life itself got started.
Yeah, how could it not
from the building blocks of the universe?
Yeah, that concept and that law permeates everything that has life.
Everything. Yeah, so I thought it was a super interesting article. It, like I said, it took me like 2 read-throughs for me to understand it. And there's still a lot of work to do on this particular subject, right? Because the complexity between the two types of fibers was small. They need to continue to try to add complexity into the system to try and figure out basically how to take that further. They need to figure out how much complexity they can create with this particular type of system and setup that they have. And the next step is they need to figure out how to automate the reaction instead of doing it manually right now. And then the other thing that they talk about,
yeah, because you have to be there. You have to be there 24/7 to monitor a continually evolving specimen. Like you can't just leave it. That's so they don't get enough funding to pay people to be there 24 hours a day creating life.
Because Otto said at the moment it needs constant supervision, and this limits the time that they can run it. And then they talk about variance as well. I don't know if you want to cover that section. Yeah,
what you got? I know I sent you the article. I sent you the article, but I'm like, what you got, man?
It's cool. Like I said, in order to figure out what real Darwinian evolution, how that works, they need to continue to add more complex systems and with more than one building block. And the trick is going to be to figure out how to design the system to where it has just the right amount of variation. Because if you have unlimited variation, the system won't go anywhere. It's just going to continue to produce a bunch of different small amounts of all kinds of variants that won't replicate, I guess. And then in contrast, if there's very little variation, nothing really new will. So there's a lot of work to go on this particular subject and field. But the cool thing is that they have beaten the monster that, well, as the article put it, they've beaten the monster that's guarding the road to that destination. Spiegelman's monster.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, brah.
This also reminds me of an article I almost sent to you, but it was kind of long. I pulled it up on my end. It's about cicadas. The 13-year cycle of cicadas.
Yeah.
It's long and I didn't take notes, so I'm going to stumble if I try to get specific. But I'll just bring it up on the screen just to let you show you. But it goes back to the replication and the complexity thing, because there's 17-year cycles of cicadas. There's 17 and 13-year cycles. That come out. 13 and 17 years, but there's a bunch of other species, 3,000 to 4,000 species. But the 13 and 17 year cicadas in eastern U.S. appear to be unique in combining long juvenile development times with synchronized mass adult emergences. So they'll actually add plus or 4 minus years, it said, if like it's too cold. Here, let me read this paragraph because it explains it. They study periodical cicadas to understand questions about biodiversity, biogeography, behavior, and ecology, the evolution, natural history, and geographic distribution of life. They've learned many surprising things about these insects. For example, they can travel through time by changing their life cycles in 4-year increments. It's no accident that the scientific name for periodical 13 and 17-year cicadas is Magicicada, magic, shortened from magic cicada, because they change their cycles depending on because they go underground for all this time. These specific ones in eastern U.S., the ones that come out for us, and they leave their shit on the trees. If it's too cold or something, they'll push it back 4 years or something. It's like they know something's happening and they can plus or minus. So as a species,
species, like 4 billion years old.
Yeah, the molecular analysis shown that 4 million years ago, the ancestor of the current Magicicada species split into 2 lineages. 1.5 million years later, so 2.5 million years ago, one of those lineages split again. The resulting 3 are the basis of the modern periodical cicada species groups, Decim, Cassini, and Decula. Oh, the Cassini spacecraft. I wonder if there's a weird connection between magic cicadas and Cassini spacecraft.
Maybe so.
Maybe they're the ones changing the weather, the Cassini spacecraft. But basically what this article gets at is the interesting property aspects of these cicadas. But what I noticed is that, and I don't know where it is in this article, but they come out of the ground. They're a swarm. Mm-hmm. They're a lot, like thousands or whatever, because it's better for their survival, because they can just get eaten by everything and still have plenty left over to mate and survive.
So they need a more like what you're getting at is like when it leads to complexity in their life cycle, they have to travel in those huge swarms to persist and survive. Are you tying it back to like the complexity article?
Yeah, I'm thinking they're a simple system, so they rely on replication to defeat resistance. Like just make a lot, don't fight back, just make a lot. But if they lack complexity to fight resistance, because they can't bite, they have no poison, animals love to eat them, they're fucked. Like at least ladybugs taste bad, so
Yeah, and
they'll get
they have some type of
stink bugs or something.
resistance. Yeah,
So I just thought it was interesting.
yeah, it is. That does make sense.
You can kind of see that simple concept taking place in cicadas, as opposed to maybe, a snake, very complex. It'll kick your ass. They only
Kick your ass.
Yeah. Anyway,
That's
that
the
was
worst way to describe a snake.
kick your ass. But yeah, the Magicicada was interesting to me, man. Magic cicada.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. And
Yeah.
like the way they describe it is them time traveling, basically.
Yeah, I didn't really get that. I guess they just extend their cycle.
Oh, the article literally said time travel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of articles to get through. Let's jump to the next one. And I think I started sending you articles. So which one of these jump into first?
The father who got jailed in Canada due to Bill C-16. See, this is wild because this is what Jordan Peterson took so much shit for, was pushing back against Bill C-16.
Was that the bill that he was pushing back against? The C-16?
Yeah, he was in, I don't want to call it parliament, but whatever their Congress is, he was in there. He was up like with the judge, on their BBC TVs, making his case of why this is unethical and not backed by science, he wasn't saying don't be transgender. He was saying don't infringe on free speech and make this a law based off of non-science when most of this has to do with mental health in the first place, when you're talking about children.
Yeah.
That's what his whole thing was, and everyone couldn't understand.
Believe it.
Yeah, and Dr. Deborah So's book talks about the science behind the mental illness, the psychological aspect of children getting surgeries and hormone therapy, and they ban and censor her and shit all over her. The same people that are like, trust the science. It's like, what science? The one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what science are you talking about?
Yeah, there's some contesting information there. When you talk about trust the science, you want to listen to the real scientist, or do you want to talk to the new version of the academics that subscribe to the woke religion? That make up facts.
You'd even have to back it up and be like, are you willing to have a conversation regarding all of the science without wanting me arrested and calling me a transphobe if you don't agree? Like, are you willing to have
that's where we're at now.
Yeah. So this father was found, this is in Canada, Vancouver, I believe. Father found to be in contempt of court for calling his female child daughter. She's 14. Judge Tamman issued the warrant for his arrest on March 4th, 2021. Tuesday the 24th, the father surrendered himself to the court in response to Attorney General of British Columbia. He was arrested and jailed. The Canadian medical system, legal system, and the child's mother continue on with the transition. The summary of the gag order. Capital AB, comma, a 14-year-old transgender boy applies for a protection order to restrain his father, capital CD, I don't know what those capitals mean, from publishing, speaking, or giving interviews about this case or about AB's personal and medical information. So he can't even talk about it.
Yeah, that's why they're using that. They can't put their names in this order. And that's why they didn't mention the guy's name. They're trying to protect the child, so they won't let the media say his name.
That's hilarious. They're trying to protect the child. That's hilarious.
That's what they say.
Yeah,
that's why this article doesn't have that guy's name. That's why he was barred from talking about it. He was banned from talking about the media about this issue. Yeah. Carry on.
Next part of the gag order. CD shall be restrained from 1, attempting to persuade AB to abandon treatment for gender dysphoria, 2, addressing AB by his birth name, and 3, referring to AB as a girl or with female pronouns, whether to AB directly or to third parties. And third, CD shall not directly or indirectly through an agent or third party publish or share information or documentation relating to AB's sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, mental or physical health, medical status, or therapies. So, I mean, this is real stuff. This is the stuff. I was having a conversation with a close friend because about that Biden clip where when he became president, someone in the crowd asked him, do you support children being transgender? He said, I support children being transgender. They should be able to be who they want. And I pushed back in this conversation and said, this is dangerous because what he's doing is ushering in hormone therapy, sex changes for kids who aren't even thinking about this unless the school is pushing the propaganda on them. And most of the science shows that when these kids have these surgeries and shit, they 80% regret it later on in life, and there's no recourse. There's no talk about. I was saying all this stuff, and he said, "This is what he said back." He said, "Now that's a slippery slope." So I'm glad you sent me this article because I sent it to him, and I was like, "This is that stuff I was talking about, man. Like this is."
Yeah.
People don't believe it when you say this is going to happen.
And this dude's a criminal now. He's a criminal
now.
And then listen to this article, right? So this part of the article. So the father discovered that the school had been showing his daughter, Soji 123, the going sexual and gender identity education materials in British Columbia, which amounts to transgender ideology propaganda videos. In the grade 7 yearbook, the child was referred to by a different name. The school counselor changed the child's name without telling her parents. The school socially transitioned the biologically female child on its own initiative with the input of a gender ideologue, psychologist, Jesus Christ.
Psychologist?
I'm so fucking stupid. Dr. Wallace Wong. And when the father accompanied his child to a consultation with Wong, the psychologist advised the pubescent child to take testosterone. Here we go with hormone replacement therapy.
My first thought, not to cut you off, but just to throw it in there, dude, these parents probably, without knowing it, oppose high school football players to take testosterone. And most everybody I know, when they find out John Jones cheated, they're like, oh, what a fucking asshole. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But they don't raise any kind of thing.
Don't raise an eyebrow to this.
Yeah. They don't even know about this. But
I don't mean to read the article. I think that the fucking details of this, of how it transpired, are important.
Yeah. This article covers like 3 things: the dad being jailed, the science of the testosterone that was, I don't want to blow it, and then something else. So you carry on.
Wong referred the child to the endocrinology unit at the local hospital. Meanwhile, Hoagland was looking for mental health solutions to help the child without drugs. So
yeah, without what I said on the last episode,
like psychological. Yeah.
Don't take Lupron. Just put him in jiu-jitsu. Let him roll around with, kids of the same sex and be comfortable.
Exactly.
Gis are thick, man. You can't sexually harass somebody in a gi. You got to really go for it, so it's safe. Just double gi, double mask, double gi.
Double gi, so you don't get touched on your pee.
Dude. Okay, go on.
On the child's first visits to the hospital, a treatment plan was put into action. Both the child and her mother, who's the man's ex-wife, signed a consent form which explicitly stated that the treatment was experimental, meaning that the endocrinologist recommending the treatment didn't know the long-term health impact.
Can you believe that shit? And here's the thing. It's the hospital. It's
shit.
Here's a perfect example of our institutions being used as corruption tools like this, if that's the right term, in front of our eyes, because we did that episode on Skull and Bones, and we saw how Harvard and the medical institutions that they established in China helped them infiltrate the heroin market without actually, they use these institutions, historically speaking, to infiltrate and conduct. So these institutions, we drive around and see, oh, look, the Auschwitz Hospital for Children. It's like, oh, this is a good place. But you got to wonder, is this one of the hospitals that's just ushering in this non-scientifically based bullshit that's hurting kids? You know, like this is a good example of these institutions doing this stuff right in front of our eyes. The same institutions people probably trust when they drive by because it's a hospital, man. It's the college. It's the school, man. This is fine. It's science, the doctors. And then you're crazy for saying, nah, these doctors are paid off and they're corrupt and they got to do this because they're compromised. This other close friend that I had that conversation with, quote unquote, said, these people, like in reference to Dr. Fauci, I think is who we were talking about. Because I was talking about Dr. Fauci is like guilty of AIDS in the vaccines or something distributed back in the day. And they knowingly distributed it, knowing there was AIDS in there. That's like a big thing. And he was like, nah, man, that's crazy. These guys, this is what he said, get to their position because they're passionate about their job. And I was like, dude, they are corrupted when they start working for the presidents for 30 years, man.
Yeah.
So like people don't even understand the concept that these institutions can be corrupted is what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's like you don't believe corruption exists.
It's like not
it's not
believing,
a real thing. Like you don't think corruption's a real thing.
Yeah. And it's like they do, but not this stuff. Like people would, it's that personal thing where like maybe you're working with somebody that's really fake and you're like, they were friends. And then like, where'd my $100 go? And you never think that person did it because you thought they were a friend. Like that person would never do that, but they did because you were played. Right? It's like that same thing. Like Fauci wouldn't lie. He's on TV. Like these people aren't just lying. I saw the video. How could they just lie? It's like that's what they do. You got played. It's like people they know corruption's there, but they don't recognize it. They get played. Does that make any sense? It's like they don't recognize it.
It's amazing to me, though, to think that, all these people in these high up positions that have ties to the government, they got there because they're passionate about.
They did get there because they're passionate, but they also got
passionate about money.
Yeah, exactly.
They're passionate about money.
Ancient. So I just want to I don't know how to spell Maltese cross. So the ancient Maltese cross that turned into the Nazi symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And the serpent. You see that?
Yeah.
See, that's the actual Nazi symbol, but super ancient Sumerian ones will reflect like this one. They'll actually be like a square, kind of like this one.
Yeah.
In some form or another.
Like that, like the black one, kind of to right to the left of your cursor. Okay.
Here's a good one. This has a bunch of them. Let me click on this one.
Well, what about it?
Because if you see back on the original article, this advertisement for this hospital, you see that Maltese cross for SCL Health?
Yeah, I saw it. It went away.
Yeah, there it is. I fucking hate this article because it bounces around.
Yeah, it's a pain in the fucking ass.
A pain in the motherfucking. But look, it's like that style of Maltese cross, motherfucker.
Yeah, you can't use reader view with it either because it doesn't show you the fucking article.
And now the goddamn thing won't scroll. Fuck you, bitch. So there's that. There was the Maltese cross with the symbology on the SCL Health advertisement. And also the medical symbol of the snake, the DNA helix with the wings at the top of it. You know what I'm talking about? My computer sucks. Can you... Here, I'm already on it. So I'll just...
I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Some with the snake and everything.
So the medical symbol is that DNA helix with the wings, but that's also the serpent and the eagle symbology that goes back to ancient Sumerian cultures. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really weird that there's these two ancient occultic symbols that are the main symbols for these major health institutions. It's on ambulances. It's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And it's these places right now that are the places where you can take your 14-year-old daughter, or she could just go by
11-year-old.
Yeah, it's
11-year-old.
Those like Look, there it is. There's the ad. SCL Health sitting there good.
Yeah.
So I just thought that symbology was weird because it's the same places that are ushering in this non-scientific propaganda bullshit that's hurting people and bringing in all kinds of bad by censoring those who talk against it.
Yeah, I mean, this is fucking scary stuff, man.
Okay, carry on. I sidetracked you
No,
there.
you're good. You're good, man. You can actually, if you have notes on this one.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
the dad was, like you said, they admitted they didn't. It was experimental, the testosterone, meaning they did not know the long-term effects. So the dad said, here I am sitting there as a parent watching a perfectly healthy child be destroyed, and there's nothing I can do but sit on the sideline. According to Justice Bowden at the time, I can only affirm or get thrown in jail. So if the family did not refer to their child as a boy, they would be guilty of family violence, according to Judge Bowden in the court. In the Mazzari ruling, he can only think thoughts contrary to the ruling, not say or act out anything contrary. So they are not policing his thoughts. That's in the ruling, man. That's not the way he feels about it. That's the ruling. Like, you can think it. We'll let you think it. Right? And that's pretty weird with Neuralink on the cusp of becoming a private product whenever people
Dude,
are plugged in their brains.
Yeah, when we can see other people's thoughts.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, this conspiracy shit is not that crazy. And people that aren't paying attention, they have no idea how wild this is.
She's getting me stressed out.
Yeah, man. So in December, the High Court handed down its decision in the Carabel case, which is another similar case. The High Court ruled that children under 16 were incapable of informed consent to puberty blockers. In the hearing, the court asked Tavistock why it had no long-term data on the effects of puberty blockers on children. Tavistock is the clinic that Carabel apparently went to and these children go to. So the court said, hey, these kids can't consent to this. Where's your data that says it's harmless? They responded that they had a 2011 study, but was unpublished still under peer review. So there's a way how peer review hurts society, is because it holds things up, but they can still go ahead. It's so weird. So the day after the judgment, they released the study, but not peer reviewed. It took them a day to release it. Like, okay, here it is. They've been sitting on it since 2011.
Not peer reviewed.
Not peer reviewed. And the study showed that between 2011 and 2020, a fast increasing number of girls were referred to the clinic with a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. For 9 years, the clinic knew that puberty blockers were both ineffective for psychological health and harmful to physical health, but kept that information from patients, public, and from the court itself. How would these institutions be so corrupt, man? They have the snake and the serpent logo on it. Why would they be so corrupt? The court heard evidence that Tavistock gave children materials that stated, as far as we are aware, the blockers will not harm your physical or mental development, while they were sitting on unpublished data that showed the opposite. They knew.
This is not good, bro.
Yeah. And
that shit is getting pushed.
Yeah.
Pushing big time in the mainstream culture.
Yeah, they know that testosterone has negative effects long term. Kids can't go back and have kids when they're adults, and they realize they didn't want to do it because their body's been totally fucked. I mean, there's a lot of that already out. That's basically what Deborah So's book is about, is all of that data about the mental illness aspect of it and the regret that most of the children face when they grow up. Because there is that data out there, but it's not talked about.
It's not allowed to be talked about.
It's not allowed to be talked about. And these doctors, the reason the parents give in is because the whole thing is that the kids are likely to kill themselves because of bullying and feeling left out. So it's all right there. It's all written on the wall. Your child is going to have mental illnesses because of this issue. It's okay, well, let's not fuck up their body. Let's handle the social situation so they can work through the mental illness. You know, let's make them understand they're accepted. Let's let them know this is okay. Let's let them be who they are. Let's teach them how to let's teach them what a bully is. Let's support them so that, like, let's take all these perfectly fine psychological measures first and foremost before we
start introducing
testosterone that they know is going to fuck up their body.
And that we don't even, like, they don't know what the fuck happens long term from this.
And that's
what's sad about this Kiara Bell woman is she doesn't know if she's gonna be able to have kids or anything, from being introduced to this early in her life like that.
Mm-hmm. So the article finishes with this paragraph that was a little complicated, but it actually explains the long-term effects that they do know of testosterone. The study showed that of the 44 children given puberty blockers, only one did not progress to wrong sex hormones. What does that mean? Only one did not progress. So 43 did progress to wrong sex hormones after puberty blockers. What's that mean?
I don't know.
So the Tavistock has claimed that the two treatments are not linked and that taking blockers does not inevitably place children on the medical pathway to wrong sex hormones and surgery. That claim has been disproven. Blockers are primers for surgery with lifelong health impacts, not simply a benign pause button. So I guess that's the thing, is like they're claiming that it just kind of pauses your system and you can, get off the drugs and your system will pick back up later. So that's not what happens. It fucks you up and there's not a lot of recourse. But what is a wrong sex hormone? Because only one did not progress. Because, like, what is wrong sex? Is wrong sex its original biology?
Right,
because you can't refer to it as, or is wrong sex the new one they want to be? If that's the case, it's not wrong. You can't say that. You'll get put in jail. So I'll just finish this. Blockers are primers. So they cause long-term damage. The study also found that medical experiments with puberty blockers did not improve the children's mental health. In fact, the children on puberty blockers felt worse on taking them. So the actual data suggests that puberty blockers make it worse on the mental health. This all comes back to mental health, and not one person. The only person who wanted to take mental health protocol
was the dad.
And he's in jail. All the other ones went straight to the clinic and got testosterone.
Oh my God. This is crazy. I couldn't imagine, man, like feeling powerless, and he's probably legitimately worried about and he is, like, he's legitimately worried about his child's long-term health.
He never said once, I don't want my daughter to be trans. This is ashamed. Yeah. He says, but
you're not even allowed
talk
to
about
so the school introduces these thoughts, right? With this trans propaganda videos, in this trans course that they introduce them to. I'm sure that the kid probably also was maybe feeling a little left out from the normal group of their gender, maybe, right? And so the school maybe takes notice of this and they start encouraging this kid along this trans path. And now they have the support of the school, the support of the mom, probably the support of a bunch of people telling the kid they're so brave, and maybe even other trans kids at the school. And so they're convinced, right? Like, I am trans. Right now, at the age of 11, they're convinced that they're trans.
Because of what the school is showing them in that Soji 123 propaganda videos about, like, the kid has no concept of this until the videos are introduced to them. And the videos presented in such a way that, hey, if you're feeling left out, you might be trans. Testosterone.
You don't feel good in your body. You might be in the wrong body. You might be
suggestibility. The MK Ultra style of suggestibility, but you don't need LSD and drugs to increase suggestibility.
Social pressure, and
you just need them to children children are suggestible. You don't need drugs like you do with adults.
This is true. Children are the most suggestible, right? I mean, that's
and if you get the
vulnerable class, and we're okay with using drugs on them that haven't been tested, that have shown negative side effects long term, and for what's probably a fleeting feeling in their development.
Yeah, and I mean, the data shows that it is because most kids after puberty say, "Hey, I'm not that." And here's my big question. Here's my question. If you do give the kid testosterone, a girl that wants to be a boy, and it works, they feel like a boy. Yay. Are they still going to be normal at school, or are they going to be bullied because they're the girl that took testosterone to be a boy? Like, you don't ever get out of that aspect of being bullied in the situation unless you show the kid be who you are and punch a bully in the fucking mouth.
Yeah.
It's basically
teach your kid martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, it seems very aggressive, but don't put them on testosterone, because what happens is when you give them testosterone and you start giving them surgery as a kid, the kid understands that I need to change me to stop the bullies.
That is a very good point.
The kid needs to understand I need to accept me and understand what bullies are. Bullies are other kids that feel like you, they're just mean about it. They just do that to other people to make themselves feel better.
Yep.
You know?
That's a very good point.
We're
teaching a very poor value by saying, hey, you know what? You're getting bullied. You need to change yourself.
Yeah, it puts the responsibility on the kid to change who they are because they're understanding I'm not good enough right now. They need to understand I need to go fucking punch that. Because I got picked on in school, but I wasn't really taught to punch a motherfucker in the face. Like, if I would have been given a couple karate classes, I'd have been like, I'm just going to kick this motherfucker. You know, but I internalized it and I put the responsibility on me because I thought it was I didn't know how to handle it. I wasn't. And it's that same concept. It's written on the wall here. It's not my words. This is all mental illness. It's all about fighting the mental illness and the bullies. So just to wrap it up on my end, you know, no testosterone, no surgery. Teach them to punch a motherfucker in the mouth. Let them know they're okay being a boy. Dress like a boy. That's great. That's great,
Doesn't
honey.
matter. Yeah.
I'll call you Dan, but just chill out with the testosterone until you're 18. You can get your first tattoo and a shot of testosterone
at 18. That's right.
Yeah, you can go tattoo a big old.
Should be 25, but whatever, 18. Because we can't tell you what to do after that point anyway.
And just to clarify, in no way do I think kids shouldn't be who they are. If they're gay, if the 7-year-old's like, I want to be a boy, be a boy. But I don't support the testosterone and surgery.
Right, not that early in life.
Yeah,
we just don't have the data on what the long-term effects are. It's just not a good thing to do. Trust the science, people. Don't do it.
Yeah, trust the science. Say no to drugs.
All right, the next one's a little more lighthearted. That last article stressed me out. I don't even want to think about it. So I just kind of thought it was funny. I don't even know why I sent it to you, but 5 White House staffers fired over marijuana use.
I love this one because my close friend also said, yeah, but Biden's going to he's going to legalize. He's supposed to, I was going hard on criticizing Biden when he said he was going to vote for him. And he was like, yeah, he's going to like legalize marijuana. I was like, dude, that's nothing compared to the 30-year war where we're bombing innocent people. Like, you know, that's a distraction. So I just love that he did this because all the people that have said, yeah, but this and yeah, but that, none of it's coming to fruition. I just love sending these little articles out to these people. I gotta check this out.
So this one, so apparently some of the staffers, they specifically 5 staffers are no longer employed over their use of marijuana as part of the vetting process for their security clearance. The Biden administration had originally stated that, hey, we're going to be a little bit more lax on this. We're going to look at it kind of a case-by-case scenario. No big deal if you had past marijuana usage. But then they get these people in these jobs because they were having trouble filling the reason they made that change, they were having trouble filling these positions because so many Americans, especially young ones, have used pot at some point in their lives. And so they were initially told, no big deal, it'll be overlooked. And then later on, they get asked to resign because of their pod usage.
See, that's what's fucked up is not only did you get lied to and you're losing your job, but they don't even want to fire you. So it's their fault. They want you to resign so they can completely maintain. Like, we didn't lay anybody off. We didn't fire anybody. This was a mutual resignation. It's like, nah, motherfucker, you fired these people.
I can kind of get why the marijuana use thing. I mean, I think it's stupid. It shouldn't come up, but I get why it comes up. You know, these people working in the White House have to have a certain security clearance, like in the military or anything else. Well, if you're in the military, I'm sure you have to get random piss tests to make sure you're not on all kind of crazy drugs. And since marijuana is still a Schedule I drug.
See, but that's the thing. That's the thing is Biden said he was going to legalize it federally, but instead he's like
enforcing the policy within his own administration.
He's enforcing the policy within his own administration that he said he was going to let. This is so hilarious, man. This is awesome.
I thought it was, that's why I said it too. I just thought it was funny. There's nothing too deep to dig on in here or anything like that. It's just like, this is fucking funny. He's firing his staffers over smoking pot.
It's got a good picture of Jen Psaki too. She looks like she's got a little attitude there. She's kind of hot, you know?
She's got a little attitude right there. Little redhead.
Kayleigh McEnany was pretty hot too.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite part of all the politics is the super hot press secretaries that they hire.
Why do they always have to get like these super hot press secretaries?
I think
they had Trump had old what is his name, Sean whatever.
He had Kayleigh McEnany at the end. Who's Sean?
At the end, but the dude at the beginning, Trump went through so many press secretaries. He fucking burned through them. It's like we don't know which one was he on, like number 5.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Fired everybody. I like when he was calling Dr. Fauci Tony. Tony's gonna come talk. Isn't that right, Tony? Ain't that right, Tony? Tim Dillon had a great joke on a podcast about how America deserves to have an old angry Italian yelling at us about our health. And he started impersonating Fauci in this like Italian accent. Wear your mask, motherfuckers. This isn't fucking around. Come on. It's hilarious. We do deserve that pissed off Italian uncle.
We do. We need that in our lives. Next article, Columbia University. I just thought this is another one, a quick one and an easy one, but just an amazement at the culture that we live in today. Columbia University is to host 6 multicultural graduation ceremonies. So, that's where we're at in 2021. In order to show that we want to come together as a society and a race, let's divide us all by race.
I mean, it's like
sexual identity.
Yeah. Even my close friend, when I sent him this article, he was like, that's kind of weird. I started to see, I was like, I guess if people just see what's actually going on instead of getting all the surface stuff from like PolitiFact and CNN or whatever, it clicks, but people just don't ever get this information because this doesn't ever really, big news controls the narrative. That's it, man.
Yeah, this doesn't come up.
So if you're not actively thinking, hey, something's up here, let me listen and read them. And if you're not actively doing that, you don't ever get any of this shit.
It's true.
You don't ever get any of it.
To be fair, right? So this headline grabbed my attention, right? And the headline pretty much lays it out, right? They're doing these virtual ceremonies, one for Black, Latino, Native American, and Asian students, and then another ceremony called FLI graduation. Will be held for first generation or low income students, and then a lavender ceremony will be held for LGBTQ plus students.
Dude, lavender is the most hilarious way to refer to the LGBTQ.
I guess.
I mean, in a sarcastic sense, because it's like, of course they'd want to be called lavender. You know what I mean? Like just some hipster cafe color.
Lavender. Yeah.
Like, come on. Is that the color you get when you mix the gay pride flag? All the colors you get lavender?
Maybe so.
Where's that come from?
I have no. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't understand why they're calling it lavender. But I'm not. I don't know. I'm not hip to the culture enough. Um. So I was like, man, that's fucking wild. Because at first I thought that they were gonna have separate ceremonies for all of them, and like you had to go to your ceremony. But that's not the case. They will have a university-wide ceremony. They will be holding those
Oh,
other ceremonies like as
wow.
a if you want to have a more for students and guests that shared similar experiences throughout college to come together.
Mm.
That's the
That
intention
makes
of it.
that's a little bit more easy to process. That they are going to have the normal one, but they'll just throw these in there too.
Right.
Because I
And
was
it's
thinking
virtual.
like if
I know. I balked at it first too. I was like, these fucking people are crazy.
yeah,
So I gotta give them a little credit. I don't. It's fun to be outraged all the time, but hey, this is not that I think it's a smart thing because even there at the very end of this article, there was a tweet from a black female that said racially and sexually segregated graduation ceremonies, one of the best universities in the world, 2021. If you want to know what going backwards looks like, this is it. So it's going down a weird path, right? For sure. It makes sense, I guess, in this context right now to have like you can do one big virtual ceremony where the whole college does the graduation, and then you can break off into your racial and sexual groups that you identify with to have your
the,
personal one.
like
But
it makes
to divide the college out like that feels a little weird just in and of itself, right? To divide it up by race and
where does the ceremony? Yeah, where does the ceremony part come from? Don't they have some kind of like weekly meeting promoted by the school? Like, hey, the Asian meeting at the coffee shop or the black meeting at the hall. They just do it in the
it's
like at
just
the end of
they're gonna
this at
do
only the
it's going to be
ceremony.
a full graduation ceremony, but for each one of those demographics.
But it's like because the whole thing is to promote these demographics being able to connect and come together, right? It's like is that not happening the rest of the time in college?
I guess I guess not.
Like, do y'all not have flyers up that promote this like monthly or weekly meetings, or it's just the ceremony at the end so that the whole world can see that you're doing something? It's like it seems less effective to have a ceremony than to just promote a weekly meeting.
True.
So it
Good
just
point.
seems weird when you break it down. It's like, yeah, but still, how does this do anything?
Well, it's virtue signaling. This is
Virtue signaling.
super virtue signaling. Come
Yeah,
on.
that's what I'm
I
getting
mean,
at. I
that's
mean,
exactly what this is.
if I
It's
was,
on a
if I
bigger
was,
scale. Like they're not doing any actual real work, right, to help diversity. They're just virtue signaling in an easy to do way because they can
like,
do it virtually.
yeah, it's like if I moved to Thailand and I started going to college and they had like a ceremony to where like all white people could get together, I'd be like, I'm good, man. If I want to hang out with white people, they're over here. We just had class together. Like, I'm
Yeah. Oh
good.
shit.
It's just
Yeah.
really weird. Like, I'm just imagining being like an Asian person at Harvard and like,
Columbia.
that's, yeah, Columbia. But it's also like maybe I'm Thai and the school assumes I want to connect to Japanese people. Like, we're all not the same Asian. Do you know what I mean?
Up.
So that like you could start splitting hairs there. Like you need to have like a bunch of different Asian group because Asian isn't just one Asian.
How far do you divide it?
Like the Indochina region is very much different than like the China region up near Russia, which is very different than
And aren't there
Japan.
certain Asian groups that don't like each other?
Yeah, yeah,
So you gonna make them all get in a group together?
yeah. It's
Fuck,
like it doesn't
hate.
make sense. That doesn't make sense. You know, it's just weird.
Anyway, so another one, just another wow moment in our culture. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this feels a little weird.
We got a couple more articles. Let me take a pee break real quick, man.
All right,
I have to tinkle.
all right.
Yeah, this next one, Zuckerberg could be in stronger position after Apple tracking change. I didn't fully get this one. I don't know how he would be in a
It's
stronger position.
He's not. It's just a change in messaging. And the reason I chose this article because I talked last week. I said, hey, we're gonna do a recap of Tim doing his speech at the China Development Forum. I couldn't find anything on it. I looked all around for it. I was trying to find like, hey, I wanted to get a transcript so maybe I could recap the talk. I just wasn't able to find it.
I couldn't find nothing either. I was looking too.
So I was like, okay, well, fuck it. We'll still stick to the same subject, just at maybe a different perspective. So Apple we talked a little bit about this last week. Apple has this new thing coming out so we talked about app nutrition labels last week with Google and DuckDuckGo. This week is actually a little different because with iOS 14.5, the next update to hit iPhones, which should be out in, I don't know when, but at the most a few weeks. It announced that it's going to require user opt-in for IDFA. So that's identifier for advertisers. That's how advertisers track you across your different apps and websites. So if you opt in, it's going to be business as usual, right? You look at something on Google, it's going to follow. When you open up Instagram, you're scrolling through your feed, you're going to start seeing ads for whatever it is you just looked up on Google, right? And it's going to follow you. It's going to follow you everywhere you go. It's going to stick to you. But if you decline, the app in question will not be able to use that particular tracking method. So that's coming soon. Now, obviously, there are a bunch of companies, advertisers, and Facebook and these other app companies that are not happy about this change because it fucks with their revenue models of tracking users constantly.
So instead of making $500 billion every year, they're only going to make $327 billion.
Right. They're not going to make money, right? So they had these Chinese tech companies especially are not happy about this, and they're looking for workarounds. So they're trying to they're testing all kinds of different ways to try and figure out how they're going to continue to track users across their apps and websites. They're looking at a method to use device identifiers like the IMEI number and the location. That way they can create a unique identifier for you. They're also testing a system called CAID, which I haven't looked up, so I'm not sure what that is. But it's supposed to be a system that can be used as a substitute for IDFA. Apple had to put out another statement after, getting all of the news of these companies trying to figure out backdoors, saying that the upcoming changes apply to all apps from companies around the world and not just those that have developed and maintained in the U.S. And to quote them, they said the App Store term, at the very end of that, they said apps that are found to disregard the user's choice will be rejected. So if they figure out that these other apps are actually trying to use these backdoor methods, they're going to reject these apps from the App Store, which is kind of a crazy thing for Apple because, we could potentially piss off China. And, if we get to the point where like we stop doing business with them, that's 15% of Apple's business, which is a huge chunk. So I think it's, once again, I think it's cool that they're taking this stance on privacy so hard and drawing that line in the sand. And so the headline of the article that kind of grabbed your attention about Zuckerberg. So originally Zuckerberg was pissed about this change coming up. He took out an ad that talked about how terrible this is going to be for small businesses, and then thought it was potentially going to file an antitrust lawsuit to battle Apple on that. But he changed his mind and kind of backed down on that. Now he's saying that they're going to be in a good position. To quote him, he said, "It's possible that we may even be in a stronger position if Apple's changes encourage more businesses to conduct more commerce on our platforms by making it harder for them to use their data in order to find the customers that would want to use their products outside of our platform." So he's just changing his messaging, right? I guess he's just trying to find like the silver lining in it or whatever. But yeah, there's no change in terms of like what Zuckerberg is doing or what Apple's doing in terms of this data war that we're in. Just thought it was interesting. And hope I did a good job. Hope I did a good job explaining it to you so you kind of understand.
Yeah, definitely you did. But yeah, I like that Apple is initiating this tech war, if you will.
Yeah, it's just all about data. Like, hey, you shouldn't be tracked everywhere you go with everything you do without you, consenting to it, right? As a fucking American or as a fucking human being, it's a basic human right,
Yeah.
you know?
You know what I
So
had?
it's, I like that it's become this focal point recently.
It's fucked up because, like, we had talked recently about how a lot of this technology with Elon Musk Starlink, for example, it's initially promoted as a convenience to bring internet everywhere, but the correct government is backing it, and he's fraudulent about his claims. So there's a lot of fishy stuff going on, and on the back end, let me not use that as an example. Let me use the National Security Act as an example to fight terrorism, right? Okay. And then Alexa and cell phones are great, but now what they're doing is they're spying on people with these convenient devices to find terrorists. And now their new law with domestic terrorism for people that want to challenge the election, or all these new, whatever, all these new things that are now considered domestic terrorism, they're turning that onto the people. So these devices that are convenient are basically on the back end used to catch us.
Yeah.
Used against us. So being tracked physically, let's say the world keeps going down this dark path with coronavirus, and you can't say, fuck masks, I have a fever right now, and then a microphone picks you up, and then agents show up to where you are because they can track you. I mean, that's what's happening in Iran. That's what the whole thing with Jamal Khashoggi's murder was he was speaking out against the government, who was censoring on Twitter and tracking dissidents and arresting them and sometimes beheading them. 2 famous wrestlers, Olympic wrestlers, got executed recently. You know what I'm saying? Like, this stuff is happening, and this is the path that leads to that. So it's just really trippy, tracking where you are. How can that be used against you?
Tracking everything you do on your device.
In today's world where tracking is becoming popular and wanted by the people so we can stay safe from the virus, right? And we need more people to be tracked so we can stop domestic terrorists like the Boulder shooter, right?
Right.
So it's like, it's just crazy, man.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah. But about the Boulder shooter, I sent you that article.
There you go.
Because
so yeah, man, that's so glad you don't live anywhere near Boulder, huh?
No.
Yeah, but I was grateful for that. When I first heard, I was like, "Is it fucking Dylan near?" I was like, "No, I don't think he's anywhere close to Boulder." So
no, Boulder's up the highway about 20 minutes. But I mean, I still wind up there for work sometimes. So
shit, I was worried a little bit, but I like I said, I thought you weren't close to Boulder, so
no.
Sorry, I didn't hit you up, just being like, "Hey, man, are you okay?"
You asshole. So
but yeah, so this guy, go ahead.
My aunt messaged me and asked me if I was okay. I said, yeah. Very strange, all the shootings in Colorado. It's very MK Ultra-esque, is what I said. Okay? Because they're all happening in Colorado, all the big ones, from Columbine to the Aurora shooting.
This one.
I saw a list of them. It was like 10 of them, and they all were AR-15s. So it's like, whoa, this is weird. But the other thing is that these guys are on the FBI's radar, just like the terrorists who were living in a gated community and getting money on a no-fly list, taking pilot classes, and didn't want to learn how to land. The FBI knew all about that. They were tracking them. They never stopped them.
This guy was on the FBI's list.
This guy was on the FBI's list too. They knew about him. Charles Manson, we talked about that. They were watching him, and they just let him go, let him go, let him go, let him go. They let these guys go. They watch them. They find these guys in the federal system. They know they're capable of this violence because of past mental illnesses, which his brother said he was struggling with mental illness at the time. They're from Syria.
Yeah.
From Syria. And all the people that were killed were white. And it was going viral on Twitter. I was looking at it under the Boulder shooter. Everyone's saying fucking white supremacist, white supremacist, white. And it's like, dude, he's from Syria. His name's Ali.
And then after they found that out, they're still running with that narrative. Well, he's still white. Benefits from white supremacy and white privilege because the cops didn't kill him, and he looks white.
Yeah,
so he still benefits. So it's still white supremacy.
I saw a big blue check mark. I saw a big blue check mark guy, a foreign I don't know where he's from, but he literally said, it doesn't matter. He's from Syria and he's not American. He was living in America and his skin is white and he's still white and whiteness. It's like, dude, he killed
And
white
whiteness.
people. Look, man, I have it right here. I have the 10 suspects right here. I had the 10 suspects. They're all white. So this is all white supremacy, MK Ultra style propaganda. And now Bill Clinton and everybody's Obama's coming out about gun control. See, these people are white. See that?
It's victims, not the suspects. You said suspects.
Victims. Yeah. So now they're all coming out in tandem about gun control and gun reform. And this is a white supremacist domestic terrorist act, despite that they're all white that was killed and he's from Syria and was Islamic with mental health issues. So my aunt said back to me, I think it's just disenfranchised people that are frustrated and want to take it out on random people. And I was texting back, they're disenfranchised because the system is designed in such a way to disenfranchise people. There's studies on rats that show how they react when they confine them. They get violent when they disenfranchise rats, basically.
Yeah.
And we're the same. But I had to delete it all because this is going to start an argument. And I was just like, yeah, it's that for sure. Because they're But like, why? People don't think about why.
They don't have the time. I said this last week. They don't have the time, Dylan.
Yeah, but she has like a college degree and she's a lawyer and she makes a ton of money. These are smart fucking people. Do you know what I'm saying? And
She's
they don't.
Busy studying law to look into the details of this.
It's so insane, man, because people don't like, why are they disenfranchised? Ask the bigger question. So it's very MK Ultra-esque because the FBI was watching this guy. They knew about this guy. He had a rap sheet from the past where he randomly got up and punched a classmate and knocked him out and punched him more in the face, cold cocked him in the head. Victim fell to the floor. Alyssa got on top of him, punched him in the head several more times. No witnesses could hear or see any reason to hit the victim, but he had been calling him racial slurs weeks earlier. That's what Alyssa said. He pleaded guilty to third-degree assault, a misdemeanor, and was sentenced to probation. Colorado background check on Alyssa revealed one more criminal case. He was ticketed for traffic infractions, didn't have a driver's license. So he doesn't have that much of a rap sheet, but his brother said that Ali Aloui Alyssa, the suspect's brother, told CNN that his family immigrated from Syria and that his brother may have been suffering from mental illness. He always suspected someone was behind him, someone was chasing him.
This is MK Ultra.
Yeah, this is very MK Ultra-esque in the fact that
because you grab someone that's like mentally ill and you convince them to do some wild shit.
He's disenfranchised. He lives in a society where he's broke. The economy's crashing. No one wants to listen to what he has to say because he doesn't believe in masks, and they call him a Trump supporter. He's disenfranchised because the system.
Yeah.
And the people know, the scientists that studied the rats, that did the MK Ultra studies, the mind control studies, they know that the circumstance of our country being confined, being broke, being spread thin, being fed propaganda that divides people, watching assholes all around cry for vaccines and police control while also going out and protesting en masse against the police. And you can't, this is a very divided and disenfranchised culture that they know this circumstance promotes violence. They're not aiming a ray gun at this guy's head and saying, kill people, kill people.
Yeah.
They just know that these circumstances and these pharmaceutical drugs that get people addicted and the lack of access to holistic health, the lack of access to things that will help you, the lack of access to funding and money to pay your bills, a crashed economy, the government, all this stuff, they know it increases. Like in the rat studies, they weren't singling out rats to make them violent. They just confined them and the violence happened. So it's like people think they're aiming a ray gun at this guy and saying kill people. It's like, no, the way our system is set up promotes this, and this is what they want, so they can then come in and call it a racial thing, start a race war, make white people bad, everybody with guns are bad, start a big gun war, take the guns away. People will want you to take, they want this so they can spin narratives and get what they want out of it, which is less rights for us, more division, and every white guy's bad It's so crazy because the evidence is on the surface. The guy's from Syria and he killed all white people.
Right?
You know what I mean?
But
Like
it's
you don't
still
have
a
to
white
look.
supremacist problem.
You don't have to look far to find out this is, the
And there's
mainstream.
definitely some shit white people. Not to throw that away, but like this was
Absolutely.
a white person didn't do this.
Like
You know,
Stephen Paddock. Stephen Paddock was a guy, but the FBI
piece of
was watching
shit.
him.
Yeah.
He got through security clearance in the hotel to the top floor, like the fourth to last floor, with bags of guns and ammo, thousands of bullets or whatever the fuck. How the fuck did that guy get all that? And was the FBI watching him? Can you look that up real quick? Because I'm pretty sure the FBI knew about, like, all of these guys. It always comes out the FBI was monitoring him. FBI was monitoring him. He had a rap sheet. FBI was watching him. So what I was saying, I sent this article when I found it last night to my aunt and said very MK Ultra-esque, and I haven't gotten a response back. Because it is, man. How can you deny it? How can you deny the FBI was watching this guy and they didn't fucking stop him? So the FBI sucks at their job, basically. The FBI fucking sucks dick at their job. If all of these guys and terrorists that committed these acts, they were watching them and they didn't do shit to stop them. What the fuck? Can you imagine, dude? Can you fucking imagine if you were like managing a store and you're supposed you're supposed to watch for thieves, and you're like, I was watching that guy. Well, he fucking got away with all the store, and 10 years later, there's like 20 people that committed these mass robberies, and you're the guy that was watching them, and you still have your job. You fucking suck at your job. That's the FBI with these people.
I agree. They fucking suck,
or they're letting it happen.
And they're letting it happen. But also, like, I'm trying to think about it. Like, if you are the FBI, it's like, when do you step in? You know, do you step in? Like, at what point do you step in and say, "Hey, we got to arrest this motherfucker and put him away"?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And if you're watching him, I think you step in.
If you're watching him, when do you step in?
I think you step in. Like, if you're watching him, you step in when he leaves his apartment with an AR-15 and shows up at King Super.
Well, fair enough. But were they watching him to that extent?
I would hope so. Probably not. But yeah, you're right. When do you stop them? And the whole thing is, what's the point of watching these guys if you can't stop them?
Fair enough.
And what are the odds that all the people you're watching are the people that go on to commit famous acts of violence that change our laws? What are the odds of all that? We were watching that guy. Oh, well, they did 9/11. We were watching that guy. Oh, he did the Vegas shooting. Oh, you were watching all the greatest murders of American history. It's very odd. On the surface, you're right. How do you stop them? But below that, none of it makes sense how they're watching all these guys. They commit the acts and then they get them.
When they say they're watching, what does that mean?
They're on a list of people to check out. I don't know.
Does that mean if they like... So, okay, so this motherfucker bought the gun like a week before.
Yeah.
So that means if you were watching him, okay, so you know what? You're right. They suck at their job, because if they were really watching this motherfucker and he bought the gun a week before the attack, the purchase for the gun with the background check should have triggered some fucking alarm somewhere along the line and be like, hey, we should probably pay attention to this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Sickening.
But it's very, I think we just keep doing what we're doing. We just keep sending articles to the people that doubt it when it happens. We just wait for shit to hit we just keep sending COVID Daily Pass articles to people like, hey, told you so. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, I don't know, man.
It's
crazy.
Well, I'm sorry to the victims' families and all the people that lost their lives in that event. It is very saddening.
It is very saddening. It feels pretty personal to me because I could have easily walked some of these.
You could have been in there.
I could have easily been. They might have. I might have brushed shoulders with them in the store. I feel like these are my people. I live here. This is my community still. So it's really weird. Like, man,
it is fucking really weird, man.
It's really weird. It's sad. It's like, damn.
Well, sorry to end on on a sad one like this.
Oh, and then just real quick, the shooting in Atlanta,
Yeah,
and that
with
was a
the
and that's another thing they're using to spin a white supremacy narrative. But
big time.
it's not white people that are attacking the Asians; it's the black people, because we all know there's a divide of black people and Asians, because the Asians in Compton and stuff would move in and open stores, like convenience stores,
Mm-hmm.
and the black people were like, "Oh, you're gonna move in and make money off of us." So there's always just been this rift. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
basically it. Basically it. So it's not even. When's the last? You know, I mean, when's the last time I've seen a black person be racist? Never, right? But in these instances, they're calling it white supremacy acts of terror again. End white supremacy. End Asian hate. It's like, dude, these are black people
How?
killing Asians.
And then so like, what are they proposing? That we like, yeah. And then
And
the
it's
dude that
even
did
the
it,
sorry.
he said, he's like, I didn't do this based on race. I was. It's because at a massage parlor, they fucking, you go to a massage parlor, they get jerked off or fucking pay I mean, like, it's a known thing. Like, that's a known fucking thing.
Was
right?
that
Like,
what this parlor was?
Yeah.
But it was a hair salon. One was a hair salon.
One was, I don't know. Was it?
Yeah, one was a hair salon.
My theory's fucking wrong. But
It was
said
3 different locations, so it might have been all of it.
from what, and I did not look into this story super deeply, so disregard what I say from here. Tiffany, who was just telling me about it, and from what she was telling me was that he stated that he didn't kill these people based on their race. He did it because he had a sex addiction, and like he associated, I guess, the locations or the people that he killed with driving him to want sex more for whatever reason.
That sounds pretty wild, man.
Anyway, that's what the killer said.
But then also there was the attacks on like Jewish people in New York and the Bronx. You saw those videos like about a year ago during the Black Lives Matter and again, it wasn't even, and I'm not knocking black people, I'm not racist, I'm just saying these attacks that led to anti-white supremacist narratives, it's like it wasn't white people, it was like black teens that were beating up Jewish people. Like a black kid pushed a 80-year-old Asian man to the ground outside of a gas station like a couple weeks ago, and they were looking for him.
Dude died.
It's like, yeah, it's like instance after instance after instance. It's not even white supremacists committing these acts. Sometimes it is.
Narrative that's going to run.
Sometimes it is Stephen Paddock.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
You know,
that's the narrative that the media. It's like the media is always like, that's the narrative right now.
Yeah.
In white supremacy, everything bad that happens is because of white supremacy right now.
Yeah, white, like, it's so crazy, man.
I just think we're living in this weird reality.
Yeah, it's not sustainable, and that's what I always resort to. It's like this wild world of propaganda bullshit and people that are buying it. It's not sustainable. Like, it's gonna burn it. It's gonna burn itself down. So we just have to maintain complexity so we can survive the resistance.
Ooh, I love that. That's the perfect way to wrap this one,
because everyone else is just a bunch of simple people.
As death is introduced into the equation, as long as you maintain complexity, we'll be able to remain resilient and continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Because it's just a bunch of simple people replicating themselves and ideas out there.
You're right. The simple people following the simple messaging of the simple media.
So what did we learn today, Jesse? Sea animals swim in circles. They don't know why.
Being complex makes you resilient.
If you're going to be simple, you need to have a lot of it and be okay with losing it.
MK Ultra is still going on.
Oh, yeah. It's probably under a different name.
The government's going to be able to give your kids sex hormones.
Yeah, Bill C-16 coming to America soon.
Biden still doesn't believe in marijuana and fires people based on their usage.
Yeah, instead of making it legal federally so he can keep them.
Yep.
Just make it legal, boss. Hey, boss, make it legal. Don't fire me, huh? Well, I'm not firing you. We're just going to force you to resign. It's different. Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
That's better. In order to make us come together racially as a country, we have to make sure that we divide into our own races. That's Colombian logic.
It helps if you put Chinese people with Japanese people and African Americans with true Ethiopian immigrants together, assuming because their skin color and their eyes are the same, they're all the same. That's going to help. It's really going to help.
Going to help a lot.
And then, a Syrian guy that still has an accent, but his skin's white, he can't go to the multicultural one. He has to go with the white people. He's like, I'm not even white, dude. I'm from Syria. My name's Ali Alwi Alamad Assesi. I'm not even white. It's like, sorry.
Yeah, you look white, bitch. Too bad.
Yeah, you look white, bitch. Help us with this diversity shit and get in fucking line. Yeah.
Zuckerberg is still a bitch wanting your data.
Fart sucker turd.
I just don't like that guy.
Yeah, I don't either. He's so weird.
Yeah, and I think that covers it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good one again today, brah.
Yeah, I learned a lot on that one. Hey, what was up with Golgothan last night? It was WoW with John. Damn
it, I changed it. It shouldn't have said that. I whenever I first started it, for whatever reason, whenever I change it on the PlayStation, it doesn't always change it on the stream. So I have my computer right there. I normally pop it open and change it manually. And so I did that. I changed it manually, and I guess it didn't stick.
It says WoW Classic with John streaming Overwatch Origins Edition.
Yeah, that was me. I don't know what happened. Sorry.
I'm just just stretching.
No, it wasn't Kettlebell Killer stream. It was
that shit was funny though, man. Warming up the lower meat sack and the meat sticks. Your incessant need for electricity. It was good. I like how your character wasn't. He was like a real guy. Just working out. Like, come on, man. Did you fix the lighting? How's the lighting? It wasn't like overly done or nothing like spitting blood. It was just like he's just living his life. This caveman barbaric guy.
What do you think I'm supposed to be? Yeah.
Well,
a barbaric kettlebell killer. That's it.
Well, it's a nice touch to it because most people they go too far with jokes instead of just keeping it simple and letting it be. And that's what you did. I think it was brilliant.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. It's stupid as fuck.
It is stupid as fuck, but it was good. It's
supposed to be.
Nice citrus flavor. Very citrusy. Your IPA.
Fuck yeah, man. I had fun.
We still didn't agree on a deep dive, but we'll do that. Check out Golgothan, Alfred and the Tednators. We're going to be dropping our live record soon. We're not waiting on that guy to send us the files anymore. We're just going to master that video audio and put it up. And the video, fucking sweet. What else is up?
Videos.
Yeah, I get my new studio speakers next week. Can't wait for that. My headphones, new headphones.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, thanks to everybody for tuning in. If you made it this far, you're a champ. I'm going to make everything public on our Patreon. The last episode right now is public. It's still not up on YouTube, but if you go to our Patreon, you'll be able to see and download the audio and stuff and donate through it.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Everything public.
Yeah, and then once we get enough viewers, we'll change it up and you'll log back in. You'll be like, where's the fucking videos? And we'll be like, pay for it, bitch.
Paywall, bitch.
Paywall, bitch. Yeah, but right now it is free. It's up on Patreon. You can donate. Just, fuck YouTube.
I like that.
Fuck YouTube.
Fuck YouTube.
I'm gonna, once I get more time, I'm gonna start putting the 10 to 15 minute segments on the YouTube from each episode.
Fuck YouTube other than that.
Yeah, we're not gonna rely on it and put our whole episodes and shit. So. Unless we get more than 1,000 subscribers, but I'm not gonna put all that legwork in up until that point for this multi-billion-dollar company that wants to fuck everybody. Fuck them.
Track you. Yeah, fuck you. And your data hog shit.
Yeah, the only thing they want us to make makeup videos or hey, what I learned buying new jeans is that
I can't fucking stand that shit, dude.
Fucking people.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. It's cringy. Okay, man.
Cool,
Thanks
man.
everybody for tuning in. See you next week.
All right, buddy.